Kicking back on this summer breeze. Welcome to Double K's Classroom. Class is officially in session.
The following Four Aces production is for mature audiences only. Listener discretion is highly advised.
Hey y'all, what's up? What's up? This is Double K here with you for another great edition of Double K's Classroom. You know, we've started to get some sports back here recently, guys. Hey, what's up? Evening, Big Illinois from BFTN. Thanks for joining us here tonight. Yeah, we're here to talk a little bit about the NBA bubble and what is happening out there in Orlando. It has been a fun ride. I'm looking at all the teams that made it. You start with there were 22 out of the 30 NBA teams that actually made it to the bubble in Orlando, or Disney bubble as some may call it. It's happening like this primarily because of the suspension of the season by because of COVID-19 and the pandemic that's going on around the U.S. right now. So they had to figure out a way to get the players to be able to play, but play safely. So this was the solution: was to basically trap them in a bubble, make them all stay at the same resort, at the same hotel. They only really have interactions with each other, and they play these games. The basically the system started out with a round robin. Um, with a round robin kind of tournament type thing where all the teams played each other, like I believe at least once. They all played about 8 games, and the players, or not the players, but the teams basically. Let's see, there was the Bucks, Raptors, Celtics, Pacers, Heat, 76ers, Nets, Magic, and Wizards from the Eastern Conference, and then you had the Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets, Oklahoma City, Thunder, Rockets, Jazz, Mavericks, Trailblazers, Grizzlies, Suns, Spurs, Kings, and Pelicans. And a lot of y'all might say, well, dang it, that list for the Western Conference seems a hell of a lot longer. And it is about 4 teams longer. Basically, what the NBA did is they took the teams that were within 6 games of the eighth spot in the playoffs, and they all got in. The only team that was outside of the bubble, or outside of the playoffs as far as the bubble goes, is the Washington Wizards for the Eastern Conference, and then the Suns, who we'll get to in a little bit, who I felt kind of got screwed. The Spurs, the Kings, and the Pelicans all are sitting out. They developed a play-in game if a team was within 4 games of the eighth spot at the time, and the Trailblazers, I believe, were within 6 games, and Memphis kind of fell because they went 2-6. Portland went 6-2. So in the bubble, so you're looking at two teams that are going to have a play-in game this weekend to see, or play-in series. I think it's like best, or I don't know. Like I believe they play a. Hold on. I believe they play a play-in series this weekend. Yeah, the 15th, 16th are the play-in tournaments if necessary, and then the playoffs begin on Monday. So the Trailblazers and the Grizzlies will play that play-in tournament. See who plays the Lakers in the first round, who clinched the 1 seed. Now, here's where I get to the team that got screwed. The Phoenix Suns were literally one of the hottest teams, or not. I can't even say one of. The only team that even had a record close to them was the Raptors at 7-1. But other than that, it was the Suns at 8-0, the Raptors at 7-1. Then it was the Pacers and Blazers sitting at 6-2. Ironically, neither one of the top seeds. But that's primarily because they sat a lot of their starters. Neither one of the top teams finished with an above 500 record. Matter of fact, they both finished equally at 3-5, with the Bucks clinching the best record in the league. The Raptors were right behind them in the number 2 seed, with the Clippers right behind the Lakers at the number 2 seed for the West. This playoff thing is about to get interesting because let me tell you something, man. These guys have basically played 8 warm-up games, and now they have to get into quote-unquote playoff mode. Uh, and that's going to be difficult. I don't care how anybody cuts it. That's going to be difficult. LeBron and the Lakers seem like the favorites. I'll say that they're one of the favorites. But let's go over the teams that actually made the playoffs and kind of show you. So in the Eastern Conference, you're going to have a matchup of the Bucks taking on the Magic, the Raptors taking on the Nets, the Celtics taking on the Sixers, and the Pacers taking on the Heat. Once again, I think Miami just kind of fell off. They ended up going 3-5. The Pacers ended up going 6-2. So there was some shuffling there because I believe Miami coming into this was a 3 seed. So they kind of fell a couple of spots, in the Pacers, I believe, were the 6 seed, so they climbed. But the Celtics have climbed into that 3 spot by virtue of going 5-3, and so they'll face off against the 76ers, who may be, I believe, without Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. But Embiid missed a game with injury, but you never know how long-term injuries can hamper you. Kind of happened with LeBron last year down the stretch for the Lakers, and why they didn't make the playoffs. But overall, this playoffs is going to shape up to be something that's worth watching. Like I said, whoever comes in out of that Memphis Blazers matchup this weekend is going to come in hot. And the Lakers have not been playing that well. Everybody can say what they want to say, but backups or not, you just lost to the Kings, man. And I'm not saying I'm from Sacramento, or I live in Sacramento, so I'm not going to sit here and say that the Kings are a bad team. But let's be real, the Kings shouldn't be beating the Lakers. That team should be deep. Like, they've got a lot of good names there, and you letting teams like the Kings beat you. So I don't know. But in the Western Conference, you got Lakers facing off against the play-in game, kind of like NCAA basketball. You got the Clippers facing off against Dallas. That's going to be a really interesting season because if you've been paying attention, despite the 3-5 record, Luka Doncic has been tearing it up in the bubble. So I think keep an eye on Dallas because that might be an early round upset. No offense to the Clippers, even though I think they should. I have them meeting the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. We'll get to that later. You got the Nuggets taking on the Utah Jazz. Should make for a great matchup. And then you got the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Houston Rockets. This is by far the most intriguing matchup of the first round of the playoffs because you have CP3 returning to Houston to try to knock off the Rockets, the team that basically tossed him away for Russell Westbrook. And you had the Clippers, or you had the Thunder, who were literally I think 0.2% chance of making the playoffs this year, and they ended up not only making the playoffs, but they made it as a 4 seed. So pardon me, you got the Rockets coming to the Thunder because the Thunder have home court advantage to it all. So those are the playoffs matchups. We're going to dive in a little bit more into those when we come back as I start to give you my predictions. But Let me tell you, man, this bubble thing has been crazy. I've been watching these games. The NBA has been piping in sound to give it a more realistic feel, and I think they're doing a decent job. Same thing with the MLB with baseball games. I was watching a couple of A's games, which, by the way, go A's, sitting on top of the AL West right now, and all actually with the best record in baseball. So, even though they're coming off a couple of losses to the Angels, they're still sitting in one of the top teams in baseball. I believe they're 13-6, a third of the way through the season, but. We'll be back right after the break, and we'll get to talking some more playoff basketball. And then I also want to give my thoughts on that contract that the 49ers gave to George Kittle. Whoo, buddy, made in the shade. You are listening to Double K's Classroom right here on the 4Aces Presents Radio Network. Spreaker.com, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
Hey, listener, Dutch here from Voice from the Underground, the podcast. My co-host and I want to invite you to check out our little corner of the podcast verse. At Voice from the Underground, we talk about all the crazy happening around us and try to make a little bit of sense out of the nonsense with little to no results. If the idea of hearing three semi-intelligent, outspoken nerds talk about politics, social issues, current events, sports, movies, pretty much anything that we decide to talk about because, well, it's our show, appeals to you, grab your shovel and come on down to the underground, and then consult a qualified psychotherapist. Find us wherever you get your podcasts, just not where you buy your weed.
Voice from the Underground.
So, what's up? Steve Fingerstyles here, the host of the podcast, spelled DA, of course. Tune in each and every week to hear what pisses me off, what angers me, what I make fun of, and of course, my crazy rants. I also have incompetent co-hosts, cool guests, and a silent producer that sucks. So what more do you need from a podcast? You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, SoundCloud, and the Pod Bros Network. Peace.
From the galactic depths of the comic book universe comes the ghosts of the stratosphere, ready to galvanize and energize your mind with the latest of comic book news and reviews. And why are you stopping me? Yes, that's much better. Hi, this is Andy Larson for Ghosts of the Stratosphere. Join me every week along with my co-hosts Rob Stewart and Chad Smith, as well as a cavalcade of fantastic comic book guests, as we dish out heaping helpings of the greatest and latest of comic book news and reviews. New shows posted every Tuesday with bonus shows every first Friday of the month. You can find us on iTunes and Stitcher under Ghosts of the Stratosphere, as well as on our website, www.gotstratosphere.com. Hope to see you soon, folks.
Alright, sorry about that. I am back. Now, we've lined up the playoff teams already. Oh, and by the way, just for anybody listening, if you have a podcast promo you wish for me to play, just contact me at Double KK Double on Twitter, or you can catch me at the darklord100@gmail.com email address, and hit me up with your promo, and I'll play it on the show. There we go. All right, so as far as which team performed the best throughout the bubble, I would say the team, of course, would go to the Phoenix Suns. You can't go 8-0. The second best team right behind them would be the one and only Toronto Raptors, a team that looks like they could do some damage in this upcoming playoffs, but I don't know. I don't know. Like, I just don't see them having that run like they did last year. Like, I've gotten into it with several Toronto Raptors fans since last year, in which I say I give all credit to them for beating the Warriors. I don't use excuses about injuries or whatever like that. Like, yeah, I'm one of those ones that believe that had the Warriors not been injured, that there was no way that Toronto would have beat them, but I give credit where credit's due. You beat who's in front of you, and that's what Toronto did. So they are the NBA champs. But they don't make it past Philly without Kawhi Leonard. If Kawhi Leonard's not there to hit that shot, they don't make it past Philly. Without Kawhi Leonard there to play that series, I don't think they even make it to 6-7 games like they did. So no offense to Toronto, no offense to Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet and them boys. They're great, but that run last year had a lot to do with the one and only Kawhi Leonard, and that's no offense to these boys because they're great, but we're going to see exactly how great. And they performed well. Like I said, 7-1. They're one of the hottest teams in the NBA over the past couple of seasons, including that run during the playoffs. But I just don't see them. Anyway, we'll get to that later. But the best team, the best player, I unfortunately for Phoenix's Devin Booker, who tore it up during the bubble. Dame Lillard is the dude that's impressing me the most. Dame Lillard has just gone out and dominated. I'm talking about this dude's averaging like close to 50 points a game over the past few games in the bubble, trying to guide his team to a minimum and a seed. And if he can manage to pull off a victory in the first round against the Lakers, man, that solidifies that boy in a rare air, in a really really rare air. So let's go matchup by matchup. Let me tell you who I got winning this bad boy. All right, we're gonna go matchup by matchup here. In the East, I got the Bucks over Orlando, of course. Um, I'll take the Raptors over the Nets in a close series. All right, and then you got let's see, Celtics and 76ers. That's going to be a close one. But I think the Celtics are healthier, so I'll say the Celtics. And I'm sorry, no offense to Pacers. I know Victor Oladipo. No, he ain't back yet, or he should be back soon, or either he is back or something. But I just don't see them making it past the Heat. Jimmy Buckets and them boys going to give it to them in the 7-game series. All right, so that puts Butler and them boys taking off and facing off against the Bucks, and then the Raptors taking on, let's see, yeah, 2-7, and then the Raptors taking on the Celtics. Raptors fans, I love you to death, but I think this is as far as you go. I think the Celtics advance to the conference championships, and then the Bucks in a 6-game series with Giannis being Giannis, proving that he deserves that MVP. The Bucks will be taking on the Celtics in the conference championships. Now I'm gonna stop there with the Eastern Conference, and let me explain to you that these two teams are two of the most well-rounded teams, and I think the Bucks with their trip to the Eastern Conference Finals last year proved that they have that championship medal, and I think that they will definitely get to this level at least. The Celtics, on the other hand, are my wild card. Who knows if they're really going to make it past the Sixers? Because the Celtics, it depends on which Celtics team shows up. The Celtics could get bounced in the first round, or they could make it all the way to the conference championship. I personally have them making it to the conference championship. Now let's switch over to the Western Conference. You got Lakers, and what I'm going to say is Portland. No offense to Memphis, but Portland just has the better team. So Lakers and Portland, I think the Lakers take it in a 6-game series. I think Dame's able to get at least two victories off of that, but I think that the Anthony Davis and them boys are just too much. I think the Clippers take out the Mavericks in a 7-game series with Luka averaging close to like 35 a game and making it happen. But I think that Kawhi in the end, that ends up guarding Luka for the latter part of the series and shuts him down and allows, or not shuts him down, but slows him down enough to allow the Clippers to get the necessary victories. The Nuggets are going to go over the Jazz just because I don't see the Jazz as a strong playoff team in the first place. So, and they went 3-5 during the bubble anyway, so it's not like they're tearing up the road. And then, no offense, Rockets fans, I think it's going to be the Thunder advancing to the next round, only because Chris Paul is just playing like fire right now, and the Thunder are a team on a mission. And Chris Paul's on the team on a mission to prove that Houston made a mistake by letting him go. That would line up a matchup with the Thunder and the Lakers and the Clippers and the Nuggets. I see the Clippers dispatching the Nuggets easily in a gentleman's sweep to get to the conference finals, whereas I see the Lakers struggling with the Oklahoma City Thunder because of lack of point guard play on their end and great point guard play on the Thunder side. So I see the Lakers winning in 7 games, and then I see the Lakers and Clippers facing off in the Western Conference Finals. This is my pick since the beginning of the regular season. Last year, it was going to be Lakers Clippers in the Western Conference Finals. As soon as I knew my Golden State Warriors weren't going to be able to get in there and get it done, that was going to be the case. So, getting back over to the Eastern Conference, Bucks Celtics. I love the Celtics to death. I think this is just Giannis's year in regards to making it to the finals. The Bucks will have all their starters playing and hopefully warm by this point. And we're going to see the Bucks make it to represent the Eastern Conference in the finals this year. And then out of the Lakers and Clippers, I think we're going to end up seeing the Bucks and Clippers, because I think that Kawhi shows up. I think that LeBron does show up as well, but I think that the Clippers have a good enough coach in Doc Rivers and good enough players to be able to nullify Anthony Davis and LeBron and make the rest of that Lakers team beat them, which I don't know if they can. So I say Lakers, Clippers. Clippers beat the Lakers in a 7-game series, probably with somebody like Kawhi or Lou Williams making the final defensive play to clinch it for them and send them to their first, I believe, their first ever NBA Finals. Bucks, Clippers. It's a toss-up, really, because after seeing what Kawhi did in stunting or surprising and shutting down Giannis last year, I say it's going to be an interesting one. I give it a toss-up, but I give the edge to the Bucks to be able to win it all. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Clippers do. So that those are my predictions as far as the playoff goes. Now, let's get to one last thing, and that is this 5-year extension, $75 million contract that the 49ers gave George Kittle. I love every minute of it. The man deserves to be paid by like a top-notch receiver, and I believe, according to the article I read, he would be ranked 12th. If you compared him to all of the other, he's nowhere near Julio Jones, whose AAV, or average annual value, is $22 million a year. But for tight end, he's just above George Kittle. Because don't get me wrong, if Kittle doesn't sign the contract he does, Kelsey doesn't get the contract he does. But Kelsey got a contract that pays him, I think, $14.3 million, which is just below Kittle's $15 million. And both of them completely blowing Austin Hooper's $10.5 million out the water. But Kittle can do it all. He can block, he can run, or he can block, he can catch, he can distract, he can do it all. For a tight end, he's Rob Gronkowski, but a little bit more athletic. Gronk was a little bit bigger. But yeah, Kittle by far is the best tight end. You could argue Travis Kelsey, but not by much. But that's it for me for this week, guys. Be sure to keep listening in the Double K, or not Double K, guys, before Aces Presents Radio Network. We got some big things coming up. Check out our First Gen Xers video game page on Facebook. Check me out on Double K's Classroom on Facebook. You can also check out the Voice Presents webpage on Facebook, as well as me. You can catch me at Double KK Double on Twitter as well. But we got Mr. Deacon's Experience coming up tomorrow night. We've got Brick House, Inspiration Radio, Now versus Then, all coming up on Sunday. Cheap Pop Podcast as well. Monday we've got Dirty Talk 101. And then we got Tuesday. I believe Tuesday is Blanket, and Wednesday is Kelly Kell with Lip Gloss and Mics and Kings and Queens of Porn. And then Thursdays belong to Miss Toy, and then back next Friday with me for Double K's Classroom, or let's just say musicals are the name of the game next week. And tune in for some great clippets of songs from various songs from various musicals throughout time. Thank you for listening in tonight. Hope you enjoyed today's show. If you got any comments, go ahead and leave them in the area below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can, and I'll talk to you later. Peace.